All right, welcome everyone. This is the Harris County Flood Control District's virtual community engagement meeting about the Cypress Creek Channel Rehabilitation and Stormwater Detention Basin Main Stem Batch 5 project in the Cypress Creek watershed. Thank you for joining us. This meeting is all about keeping you informed and hearing your thoughts about what's being done to reduce the risk of flooding in your area. Your input truly matters, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here. I am Robert Fricke with the Flood Control District Communications team, and I am joined by our leaders and experts to answer your questions and make sure you have the latest information about important flood mitigation efforts in your community. It's great to see people engaged in this project. We look forward to keeping this conversation going. Thank you again for being here. Before we dive in, we have a pre-recorded message from Harris County Precinct 3 Commissioner Ramsey.
Howdy, I'm Tom Ramsey, and I proudly serve your community as Harris County Precinct 3 Commissioner. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We're excited to share with you an update on the Cypress Creek Implementation Program, one that marks a major commitment to you on our ongoing work in flood risk reduction. Today and over the next few weeks, you'll hear about a group of projects that are all related to one another and funded through both the 2018 Harris County Flood Control District Bond Program and the Community Development Block Grant Program. These include the TC Jester Basins, Westator Basin, Cypress Hill Basin, Sanger Basin, Kluge Basin, along with channel rehabilitation in multiple areas. When rolled out together like this, these projects make a significant impact across the entire Cypress Creek watershed. Currently, they are finishing design and approaching construction. Once constructed, they will provide more storage for stormwater, enough storage to fill 917 Olympic-sized swimming pools from Highway 249 to Highway 45. This means removing enough dirt to fill the NRG Stadium twice. So you'll definitely notice some changes occurring in the very near future. As part of our Precinct 3 top priorities, your safety is number one. And this includes protecting you from the negative impacts of natural disasters. We are committed to finding solutions to this flooding problem in Harris County. I thank you again for attending this meeting with Flood Control, and please provide your feedback to this plan. We really want to hear from you and take action based on your needs. Thank you.
Thank you to Commissioner Ramsey. To kick things off, we'll have a brief presentation to let you know more about who we are and what we do. Then we'll give an overview of the fifth and final major maintenance of Cypress Creek and its tributaries effort, including key details about the two packages in this project. The first is the Sanger Stormwater Detention Basin, Phase 1, and Channel Rehabilitation at I-45 package. And the second is the Channel Rehabilitation at Kirkendall and the Cypress Hill Stormwater Detention Basin package. We'll review the design, anticipated benefits, timeline, and next steps for both packages. After that, we'll move into Q&A session where you'll have a chance to ask questions directly to the Flood Control District team. You can submit comments and questions through the virtual meeting's Q&A feature. We'll also cover some of the most common questions we get from the public. If we don't get to your question tonight, don't worry. We'll be sure to follow up with a response after the meeting. And I will go over these instructions again when we get to the Q&A section. Now, I will hand things over to Herman Sanders, Project Communications Specialist, who will share information about the Flood Control District. Herman, please take it from here.
Thank you, Robert, and a big thanks to everyone here with us. I want to start by sharing a bit about the Flood Control District and what we do. So what is the Harris County Flood Control District? In 1937, after back-to-back devastating floods hit the Houston area, the Texas legislature created the Harris County Flood Control District to help reduce flood risk throughout the county. Today, We're governed by the Harris County Commissioners Court, and we work closely with other local and federal agencies. One of the key reasons we were originally created by the state of Texas was to serve as a local partner to help bring in federal funding for flood damage reduction projects. And over the past almost 90 years, our scope has expanded. We've invested billions of dollars in flood damage reduction projects throughout Harris County, funded through federal, state, and local resources. In addition to these capital projects, voters approved a property tax increase in 2024. These tax dollars added about $100 million annually for maintenance efforts to help keep our flood damage reduction infrastructure working as it was designed and remain effective for generations to come. The Flood Control District is incredibly unique in its mission. In addition to the unincorporated areas of Harris County, we also have 32 municipalities within our boundaries. Our agency can partner with these other cities, precincts, and local agencies to work together on flood risk reduction projects at both the local and regional level. So not only do we plan and implement new projects that expand and improve our drainage network, but we also have maintenance teams working day in and day out to keep our bayous and channels ready when the next storm hits. In fact, it's built into our mission to plan, implement, and maintain flood risk reduction projects guided by community and natural values. The last part, guided by community and natural values, is so central to who we are. And it's also one of the most difficult challenges we face. Building projects that not only reduce the risk of flooding, but also respect the needs of the community and the environment, especially in a highly urbanized area such as Harris County. That's why your input at meetings like these matter so much. I'm sure it's safe to say that everyone joining us tonight probably knows that Harris County is prone to flooding. But why? Not only do we have extreme rainfall events like tropical storms and hurricanes, but our land is flat, which means stormwater often moves slowly when making its way to bayous and channels. And to make things even trickier, our clay soils don't absorb stormwater very well. Instead of being absorbed, stormwater just collects on the ground, creating a pooling effect, thereby increasing the risk of flooding. At the Harris County Flood Control District, we know the idea of flooding is a top safety concern for everyone who lives here. It's our job to reduce the risk. We are actively working on flood risk reduction projects across Harris County, as shown on this map, separated by color-coded watersheds. But what is a watershed exactly? First thing you might notice is that each watershed is named based on a nearby bayou or body of water. So each watershed is actually that color-coded area of land around the major bayou or body of water, indicating where storm water is expected to ultimately drain if rain were to fall in that region. Harris County is comprised of a vast and impressive system of bayous, tributaries, and other important waterways that make up each of the 23 watersheds. If you straightened out all of the winding channels and lined them up from end to end, they would stretch from New York to California, more than 2,500 miles, linear miles. The project we are presenting tonight is an important part of the county's drainage network located in the Cypress Creek watershed in northwest Harris County. Bayous and channels are just one piece of the drainage network, as you'll see here on this slide that illustrates jurisdictions. And while the Flood Control District plays a critical role in reducing flood risks, we're part of a much larger effort. At your home and in neighborhoods all across the county, storm sewers and roadside ditches collect stormwater runoff and move it away from homes and streets. Those drainage systems are typically managed by either the Harris County Engineering Department, a municipal utility district, or a city like the city of Houston. The stormwater then makes its way to the larger bayous and channels before it finally heads out to Galveston Bay. We take our role in flood risk reductions for Harris County very seriously, and we leverage different types of funding opportunities for projects that can help reduce the risk of flooding in our region. One very important source of funding comes from the 2018 bond program. Back in August 2018, Harris County voters approved $2.5 billion in bonds for flood risk reduction projects across the county. This decision didn't happen overnight. Before the election, we held 23 community meetings, one in each watershed, because we wanted to hear directly from the residents about their priorities and concerns. Those conversations helped shape what is now a list of 181 bond IDs, of which more than 20% were added directly from community input. Each bond ID can include multiple projects. The actual timing of each bond project depends on several things like funding, environmental permitting, right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, and specific grant requirements. As these bond projects move forward, we're making real progress in building a more resilient Harris County. So far, for the most recent data, we have completed 43 bond IDs, secured $2.7 billion in partnership funding to keep the bond program moving forward, and hosted more than 200 community engagement meetings. It's important to note that even though voters approved $2.5 billion for the 2018 bond program, the estimated total cost of every project on our bond project list is actually much higher than that. From the very beginning, we've been clear. In order to see all bond projects through construction, we need funding partners. Think of it this way. Multiple bond IDs on the list were funded for the feasibility study or preliminary engineering to see what projects may be possible to reduce the risk of flooding in certain parts of the county. Without this important first step in the project lifecycle, it's impossible to know what potential projects are even possible or determine how much it might cost. The good news? So far, as I mentioned, we've secured more than $2.7 billion in partner funding to help move projects forward across Harris County. Each funding partner has its own guidelines. Some have specific requirements for the types of projects they will consider funding, while others may require a local funding contribution. The Flood Control District has an experienced and dedicated team that works very hard to match each project with the right funding opportunities, making sure we maximize every dollar to bring the most benefits to the community. Now I'll share a little more information on the cost and funding partners for this project. First, the engineer's estimate for the Sanger Stormwater Detention Basin Phase 1 and channel rehabilitation at I-45 and the channel rehabilitation at Kirkendall and Cypress Hill Stormwater Detention Basin is about $55 million. This is the estimated cost to see both packages through to completion as of today. I want to highlight one funding partner for this project, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. The Community Development Block Grant Mitigation Program is one of the funding programs under HUD. Mitigation funding focuses on mitigating the risk of future flooding in a community. The Texas General Land Office, or GLO, administers the grant program at the state level for HUD. This means the GLO distributes funds to local, county, and state agencies that apply for and are approved to receive CDBG mitigation funding for projects designed to reduce the risk of flooding in the future. The Flood Control District has been awarded approximately $541 million for projects meeting the requirements. This project is receiving approximately $53.7 million in CDBG mitigation funding. All Flood Control District projects receiving CDBG mitigation funds must be completed by March 31st, 2028. Now that we've shared some key background information, we'll get into the important details about this project. Before we do, just a quick reminder, we would love to hear from you. As we go through the project details, please feel free to drop any questions or comments into the Q&A box. And with that, I'll hand it over to Jonathan St. Romain with the Partnership and Programs Division with the Flood Control District to share more about the Cypress Creek watershed and the Batch 5 packages. Jonathan, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Herman. So first, I'll share a brief overview of the Cypress Creek watershed and this project, and then we'll discuss key project updates. The Cypress Creek watershed is located in northwest Harris County, and it extends out into Waller County. It's a highly developed watershed with a large amount of development occurring before current regulations were in place. Rainfall within the 267 square miles of the Cypress Creek watershed drains to the watershed's primary waterway, which is Cypress Creek, but there are 250 miles of open waterways in the watershed, including Cypress Creek and its major tributaries. The Cypress Creek watershed, like the rest of Harris County, has a long history of flooding. Records of flooding events date back more than a century. And interestingly, historical high water marks along portions of Cypress Creek indicate that an October 1949 flood was the highest known flooding event until Hurricane Harvey in 2017. In the Cypress Creek watershed, the 4-day Harvey total was a record 29 inches and flooded approximately 9,500 homes. And so now that we've provided a background on the overall Cypress Creek watershed, let's get into the details and history of this project. This is a community input project under Bond ID CI-012 and involves major maintenance along Cypress Creek and its tributaries. This map shows an overview of the entire Cypress Creek major maintenance effort along Cypress Creek and its tributaries. The objective of the Batch 5 project and the channel rehabilitation improvements is to stabilize the channel segment and minimize erosion from occurring in the future with the benefit of flood risk reduction along the main stem of Cypress Creek. This project, shown in the orange boxes, is the 5th and final batch of the pre-planned major maintenance effort. And when we say batch, we're referring to the 5 construction contracts that will repair multiple individual project sites. Each batch was intended to be separately designed and constructed. But before we review batch 5, let's take a look at batches 1 through 4. These batches consisted of major maintenance and channel repairs. So far, batches 1 through 3 have been completed, and batch 4 is in progress, and it's estimated to be complete by the first quarter of 2026. Overall, batches 1 through 4 include channel restoration to approximately 24 miles along Cypress Creek and its tributaries. Batch 5 is the final batch. It includes 2 packages. First, the Sanger Stormwater Detention Basin Phase 1 and channel rehabilitation at I-45, and second, channel rehabilitation at Kirkendall and Cypress Hill Stormwater Detention Basin. Batch 5 is unique because it includes work on the main stem of Cypress Creek, and it also includes 2 stormwater detention basins to mitigate the channel rehabilitation to ensure there are no downstream impacts. So let's take a moment to talk about stormwater detention basins and how they help with flood mitigation. While channel conveyance improvements or channel rehabilitation packages like the ones we're talking about tonight help stabilize the banks of the creek and move stormwater more efficiently out of an area, stormwater detention basins hold the stormwater in one place, but only temporarily. These basins are temporary storage areas for stormwater runoff. We strategically place them in the areas where they can catch extra stormwater and keep it from overwhelming channels and flooding downstream communities. Once water levels in the channel go back down, the stormwater that's stored in the detention basins flows through pipes back out into the channel and eventually out to Galveston Bay. As we mentioned before, the Flood Control District is a no adverse impact agency. That means we do not allow our projects to reduce flooding risks for one area while increasing risks somewhere else. That's why stormwater detention basins are often built before or at the same time as channel conveyance improvements or channel rehabilitation to prevent any unintended impacts downstream. So first, we give an area the ability to store excess stormwater, and then we find ways to move it out of the area even faster. All stormwater detention basins serve the same purpose, temporary storage for stormwater, but they can be designed in different ways. Some are built as one large basin, like the examples shown here, while others are made up of several compartments that work together. Stormwater detention basins can also be either wet bottom or dry bottom. Wet bottom stormwater detention basins always have a permanent pool of water with extra space above it for storing stormwater during heavy rain. Dry bottom stormwater detention basins are lined with grass and are designed to drain completely between rain events. Wet bottom basins can attract birds, which can enhance our community and natural values, but they also pose risks to aircrafts and are not permitted in proximity to airfields by FAA guidelines. For this project, we're designing a wet bottom detention basin at the Kirkendall location and a dry bottom detention basin at I-45 due to its proximity to George Bush Intercontinental Airport. So what kind of storage capacity are we talking about with stormwater detention basins? When we measure stormwater storage, we use a unit called an acre foot. It's the amount of water needed to cover 1 acre of land to a depth of 1 foot. This project is estimated to hold about 631 acre-feet of stormwater within the 2 detention basins. That's roughly 206 million gallons of storage. To put that into perspective, a football field is a little more than an acre. So that's enough to cover an entire football field with stormwater to a depth of 478 feet. By temporarily storing this massive amount of water, the basin will help slow the flow of water through the channel and help reduce the risk of flooding. With this information in mind, let's dig deeper into the objectives and design of the 2 packages that make up Batch 5. These channel sections have received extensive erosion over the years. The objective of this project and the channel rehabilitation is to stabilize the 2 channel segments by making the side slopes less steep, which will also help minimize erosion in the future. Let's take a look at the Sanger Stormwater Detention Basin Phase 1 and Channel Rehabilitation at I-45 package. This stormwater detention basin will be located at the I-45 frontage road intersection with Cypress Creek. It will be constructed as a dry bottom stormwater detention basin, and it's anticipated to provide approximately 483 acre-feet of stormwater storage. The property required to construct the basin is currently owned by Harris County and will be transferred to the Flood Control District before construction. The channel rehabilitation portion of this package will take place across 4,300 feet or 0.8 miles to the east of I-45, just north of Cypress Preserve Road. The other package is the channel rehabilitation at Kirkendall and Cypress Hill Stormwater Detention Basin. The Cypress Hill Stormwater Detention Basin will be located at Kirkendall Road and Cypress Creek. The property required to construct the stormwater detention basin was acquired by the Flood Control District back in 2018. This stormwater detention basin is anticipated to provide about 148 acre-feet of stormwater storage and will be constructed as a wet bottom basin. The channel rehabilitation portion of this package will take place across 3,000 feet or 0.6 miles near Kirkendall Road. In total, this project provides about 631 acre-feet of stormwater storage within the 2 detention basins. Pre-Atlas 14 100-year design storm models show water surface elevation reduction of up to 1 foot near the I-45 project limits. When we say water surface elevations decrease, we mean that a particular storm event will cause Cypress Creek to rise to a specific level today before the project occurs. But after the project is completed, that same specific storm event would produce a water level in Cypress Creek that's lower than before, so that flood risk to homes and people is lower. Overall, the benefit area of this project is estimated to reach nearly 40,000 people who either live near and or commute through the area. The visual on this slide shows the standard life cycle of a flood risk reduction project. While every project is unique, they all follow a similar path, and there are certain milestones we expect to hit along the way. Right now, we're nearing the end of the design stage for Batch 5. And this brings us to our timeline and next steps. We're aiming to finalize the design stage by July of 2025. And when following our project lifecycle, after the design stage comes the construction stage. As part of our standard practice, the Flood Control District will advertise the project for bids. We anticipate both packages in Batch 5 advertising for bids in July of 2026. After the bids are received and reviewed, the contract can be awarded after approval from the Harris County Commissioners Court. If everything progresses according to plan, the channel rehabilitation at Kirkendall and Cypress Hill Stormwater Detention Basin package could be completed by the fourth quarter of 2027, and the Singer Stormwater Detention Basin Phase 1 and channel rehab at I-45 package should be completed by the second quarter of 2028. As we get closer to construction, we'll provide more updates to the community. So please make sure you sign up for our mailing list by visiting hcfcd.org/CCCR and submitting a comment. And again, we appreciate you attending this meeting to listen and learn more about our work. It's now time to hear any questions and comments you'd like to ask or share. So I'll hand it back over to Robert to kick off the Q&A.
Thanks, Jonathan. Before we move into the Q&A, I just want to say we truly value your input. Your feedback helps shape this project and others happening across Harris County. Every comment and question we get tonight will be considered as we move forward, and the conversation doesn't end here. If you'd like to stay updated, ask more questions, or sign up for our mailing list, please visit hcfcd.org/CCCR. As a reminder, you can use the Q&A feature through this virtual meeting to submit a question or comment while we're together tonight. I want to point out again that any questions we don't get to during tonight's Q&A will receive a response after the meeting. Information from this meeting and a recording of this live stream will be available on our website and YouTube channel. Joining Jonathan for our Q&A session tonight are Jason Brock, Maintenance Engineering Department Manager, and Fidelis Atata, Project Manager. Now it's time to take some of your questions. Our first question for this evening is for Jason. Jason, thanks for being with us tonight to help answer questions from the community. It was mentioned this project will help stabilize the channel to minimize future erosion. How will the channel be stabilized?
Hi, good evening, everyone. These channel segments have experienced extensive erosion over multiple flood events, and we're going to stabilize the channel by primarily making the channel side slopes less steep to help minimize any additional erosion from occurring in the future.
Thank you, Jason. Our next question is for Jonathan. Jonathan, we have a funding question that I'm hoping you can help answer. Kevin is asking about federal grants under the current presidential administration. He is wanting to know if the federal funding we receive from projects or for projects has been affected. Can you talk a bit about this, please?
Yeah, so that's a great question that we could talk for a while on. That's probably a little bit beyond the scope of this specific community engagement meeting. So I'll touch on it a little bit as it relates to these specific projects in this specific program, the Community Development Block Grant Program that comes from HUD, Housing and Urban Development, through GLO, Texas General Land Office. The answer is so far no. This funding has not been affected. I say so far, but that's what we're seeing on this one. There's a lot going on with some of our other funding programs. FEMA has canceled its BRIC, Building Resilience and Infrastructure in Communities program, and so that's one that we can specifically talk about that has definitely been affected. And then there's lots of unanswered questions with some of the other programs that we have through FEMA as well as EPA and some of our other funding partners. So yeah, it's a great question with lots of moving parts and lots of things happening, and we'll make sure to keep everybody updated as things change. But again, so far, no issues with these projects we're talking about in this current CDBG program.
Thanks, Jonathan. Jason, back to you for this next question. So typically, maintenance projects do not also include stormwater detention basins. Can you please explain why 2 stormwater detention basins are recommended for this project?
Yes, this batch 5 project is unique because it includes work on the main stem of Cypress Creek, and it also includes 2 stormwater detention basins to mitigate the impacts from the channel rehabilitation. The channel rehabilitation packages will help stabilize the banks of the creek and move stormwater more efficiently out of the area. The stormwater detention basins are needed to temporarily hold the stormwater, slow it down to ensure that there are not any downstream impacts caused by the channel rehabilitation efforts along Cypress Creek.
All right, thanks, Jason. Our next question is for Jonathan. Jonathan, we are often asked how a wet bottom basin full of stormwater can hold more stormwater. Can you help to explain this? And just for some fun flood control district trivia, can you also talk a bit about why the flood control district avoids using the word pond as in detention pond when talking about our detention basin projects?
So when we talk about wet bottom basins, the first thing we have to remember is we say wet bottom. And so that water surface, we call the static water surface or the static water level, is vertically in elevation down much lower than street level, or what we would say is natural ground. And so the vertical distance between sort of where you would be standing up at natural ground or street level all the way down to where that normal water surface is, that could be 10 or 15 or 20 feet. That whole vertical distance is what is available for storage. And so it's just the bottom where that water surface is that stays wet. And that wet pool is typically anywhere from 3 to 8 feet. We want it to be more than 3 feet deep to prevent mosquitoes, but less than 8 feet deep for general safety. There's also cost. We don't want to dig out more dirt than we absolutely need to. So again, the space for storing stormwater for flood mitigation purposes is above that static pool of water. Yeah, detention ponds. We avoid saying detention ponds. One big reason is we want to reduce confusion with amenity ponds, and especially in the newer neighborhoods, you'll see amenity ponds with fountains, and that water surface will be up higher, a lot closer to what we call street level or natural ground, and those ponds are just there to look pretty, and we would call those amenity ponds. Some of those could be combination. They could provide a dual purpose there. But that's the main reason we don't like to use the word ponds. I guess the other reason is we do utilize dry bottom detention basins, and so calling that a pond isn't really correct because it's dry most of the time until you get a heavy rain event, and then it fills up with water, and even that's only temporary. It drains back out and it's dry, and so we wouldn't want to call that a pond.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jason, I have another question from you. This one is from Kevin. It is regarding the Cypress Creek Greenway. Have there been any discussions with Harris County Precinct 3, or are you able to share anything about Greenway access by the Sanger Stormwater Detention Basin?
Sure. Yes, we have been coordinating with Precinct 3. We also are leaving quite a bit of a wide berm as well between the basin and the channel. That way that we have plenty of room for any type of future trails or other amenities that would be added in this area.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Our next question is for Fidelis. Fidelis, we often receive questions about project timelines and why the construction process can't be started sooner. Can you please explain what steps will be taken between finalizing the design and advertising the packages for bid?
Yes, sure. From here, the team will review public feedback from this meeting and finalize the design of both packages. We aim to complete this by the end of July. Then we will advise both projects for bids targeting Q2 2026. And then between now and then, we obtain all the environmental approvals, receive authorization to utilize grant funds from GLO, and currently projected to happen the first quarter of 2026.
Thanks, Fidelis.
You're welcome.
Our next question is for Jason. Jason, another question that we are frequently asked by the community is about the impact the project will have on trees. Will trees be removed for this project? And are there any plans to plant new trees after construction is complete?
Yes. When we construct stormwater basins, detention basins, it is going to be necessary to remove all trees located within the footprint of the basin, and any of those trees that are too close to the excavation area to ensure integrity of any of the engineered elements. And that way they function correctly and helps us minimize any need for future repairs. Also, the tree roots that are close to the excavation area are often damaged from construction or construction equipment, and the trees are unable to survive the construction impacts long term. So when at all possible, though, we are trying to maintain native, mature, and high value trees along the top banks to provide a buffer. And during construction, we also will put up tree protection fencing to protect the roots of the trees. We'll also we'll have a planting plan that will be developed for tree reforestation along the stormwater detention basins. The trees will be planted after construction is complete under a separate contract. So that will not be part of this project, but it will be after the CDBG project.
Thanks, Jason. And Jason, I have a follow-up question on the Precinct 3 question that Kevin mentioned earlier or submitted earlier. Is there any input from the precinct on park space for the Sanger Basin?
Yes, we are. Well, we are still coordinating with the precinct. I'm not 100% sure of the layout at this time, but I know that the design team is coordinating with the precinct.
All right. Jason, let me stick with you for this next question too. This one's from Mr. Rehack. Rehack, first of all, thanks for being here tonight. Mr. Rehack is asking if the flood reduction at I-45 will keep the freeway above water in the event of another event like Harvey.
Well, that's a interesting question, yet for sure. Well, I can tell you that the TxDOT project that was completed, where they did raise the southbound frontage lane roadway is definitely going to help that. And as Jonathan mentioned, we are looking at about a foot reduction along Cypress Creek for major events.
Thanks, Jason. And yes, we do have a question from Carol. Just to clarify, Carol, I am Robert Fricky. I work in the communications department here at the Harris County Flood Control District, and Herman Sanders also works in communications within the project communications group. And thanks for being here tonight, Carol. Next question is for Jason. Jason, this question is from Mr. Robertson. He's noting that the Sanger Basin area was originally acquired for future park development along Cypress Creek and is a forested tract. Since it will be a dry bottom basin, can consideration be made for planting trees in the dry bottom basin to provide ecological benefits?
Definitely. We are going to be looking at that as part of the planting plan. Once the project is complete, once the basin and channel project are complete.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Jason, another question for you. We often receive this question about impacts to traffic and road closures. Will there be traffic and other impacts during the construction of this project, especially the package near I-45? Or is it too early to discuss this? Or in general, can we talk about it some here at this meeting?
Sure. I would expect that there would be some temporary lane closures or some type of flagging operations near construction access points. I-45, IH-45, the frontage road, northbound lanes. As you can imagine, kind of like Jonathan was saying, the amount of material that's going to be removed from these basins, that there will be a lot of truck traffic in and out. So as we get closer to construction, we will provide updates to the community, and as always, of course, we'll be working with the contractor to try to minimize any traffic and construction impacts.
All right, thank you, Jason. Our next question is for Jonathan. Jonathan, we talk about community and natural values being important to our agency. Can we talk about wildlife and any environmental concerns for this project and how we go about handling that?
Sure. We're taking proactive steps to protect wildlife and also follow all environmental guidelines to make sure we keep the project moving responsibly, especially because we're receiving federal funding for this project. There's even more extensive environmental due diligence that's required, specific to wildlife and species that might be living in the project area. There's potentially the alligator, snapping turtle, and the tricolored bat. And those are both being considered for federal protection. We've prepared a wildlife assessment, and we're working with both state and federal agencies to make sure that we avoid harming both of these species or delaying the project if they do become officially listed for federal protection. In the Cypress Creek area near Kirkendall, native freshwater mussels were found. These are not endangered, but we're still taking steps to protect them. And that includes doing a formal study or survey and relocating those mussels before any construction in the channel area begins.
Thank you, Jonathan. This next question is for Jason. Jason, maybe we can shift and talk more about the project footprint. We have a resident asking, with detention basins being developed next to the channels where channel stabilization work is occurring, will it be possible to leave an undisturbed section of the riparian corridor between the channel and the basins? And are you able to share anything regarding that with this resident? And also, if you could give a shout out to the person who opposed this question, but question came in as anonymous, but thank you to whoever submitted this one as it was anonymous. But Jason, over to you.
But unfortunately, based on the work that we're doing in the channel for the stabilization, we will be disturbing most of that channel footprint. But far as long term, we are going to, like I said, we will be coming back, not only looking at replanting within the basin, but also measures taken along the channel themselves to help additional live staking along the toe, and other kind of biostabilization methods as well along the channel side for both of these channel segments.
All right. And Jason, this next question is for you. Where will the excavated material be disposed?
Yeah, this is a question that we are asked often. The excavated material will be disposed at environmentally approved sites outside of the 500-year floodplain.
All right. Thank you, Jason. And we've received a lot of great questions tonight. However, at this point, we haven't had any more questions submitted from our attendees. So out of respect for everyone's time this evening, we will go ahead and wrap things up with a few final words. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us and being a part of this important conversation this evening. If you think of questions or comments later, or if you're watching this on replay and have something you want to add, please submit a comment on the Harris County Flood Control District website at hcfcd.org/CCCR, or you can submit by mail. Also, we encourage everyone to get flood insurance. People usually think about flood insurance around hurricane season, which runs June to November. But flood season is year-round in Harris County, as everyone knows, and we urge you to protect your home and property. We will continuously share updates on this project as our work moves forward, so be sure to sign up for email alerts on our website and follow us on social media to stay up to date on what we are doing in your neighborhood and beyond. Thank you, stay safe, and have a good evening.